How's it going, everybody? This is the last lesson in the borrowing money unit. This is about something called assets and liabilities. And I think for the most part in this lesson, we don't need to use the financial calculator. We're just going to be doing actual calculations with formulas instead of using all the financial calculator stuff. But first, what is an asset? What is a liability? Well, an asset is a possession, so something that you own that can be turned into cash to cover any liabilities. And a liability is if you owe money, if you are in debt, or just if you have a loan, for example, that you're paying off. Those are all liabilities. So with these two things, we can calculate something called the net worth, which is the difference between the total of all of your assets and all of your liabilities. So when you minus those two numbers, if it's positive, that means you have a positive net worth. So you have more, more assets than liabilities. I don't really know how else to say it, honestly. If you sell everything that you own and then you pay off all of your debts, that would mean that is how much money that you have left over. And you might hear, for example, billionaires, they talk about their net worth a lot of the time, and they're in the billions of dollars. That doesn't mean that they have billions of dollars in their bank account. What that means is they own a lot of stuff that if they were to sell it would cover off all of the debts that they do have. So we have this calculation here for the net worth. And there might be a question on a quiz or a test or a provincial exam that asks you to use that formula. There's also something called the debt equity ratio, and it has a formula here. It is a measure of your financial health that is based on your net worth. And in general, this ratio should not be higher than 50%. Finally, there is the gross debt service ratio. This one involves things like owning a house. So it is the percentage of your gross income required to cover payments associated with housing. It includes the mortgage amount, it includes your property taxes, and it includes your heat. Half of condominium fees are included. I've never seen any questions with condo fees at all, but maybe there will be one. And in general, this ratio should not be higher than 32%. So if it is higher, that would mean that basically the house that you own you wouldn't be able to get the house. If it is below 32%, that would mean that you would get the house. Again, we're going to take a look at examples of that. But there is a note here at the bottom that says make sure that all of the amounts in the question are either going to be annual or monthly. Okay, they all have to be the same. You can't compare one annual value and compare a monthly value along with that. So we're going to take a look at 3 examples on the next page. The first one says, your monthly mortgage payment is $1,350, your monthly property tax is $335, and your heating costs are $100 a month. Your annual income is $67,000. Calculate the gross debt service ratio. So right away, one thing to point out is we have monthly, 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 and then we have annual. So annual is different. We're going to have to change that to a monthly amount. So there are 12 months in a year. So we're just going to take the $67,000 and divide it by 12. And you get 55,83.33. So now this is the monthly income amount. So we're going to calculate the GDSR, which is your mortgage plus your property tax plus your heating cost divided by your gross income, and then times by 100. And you see that I put brackets at the top. If you're doing this in one big calculation, the brackets are important. Otherwise, you can simplify the top part, the numerator here, before you do the rest of the calculation. So if we plug in these numbers, it is 1350 plus 335 plus 100 divided by your gross income, 5583.33, and then times that by 100. So on the calculator, we're going to do 1350 plus 335 plus 100, close bracket, divide 5583.33 times 100, and you get an answer of 31.97%. So whenever you're doing calculations, in particular on the provincial exam, make sure that your answers are to 2 decimal places. Don't just round it up, because they're really looking for that 2 decimal place answer. All right, so because this is just below 32%, that means this person is in pretty good financial health when it comes to the house that they own. Example number 2 says, Jen has a house worth $234,000, a car worth $12,000, an RRSP worth $2,500, a mortgage of $198,000, a student loan of $10,000, and a personal loan of $2,000. We're going to calculate her net worth, and we're going to calculate her debt equity ratio. So just flipping back here, in order to calculate the debt equity ratio, we need to know what the net worth is, and the net worth is the total assets minus the total liabilities. So we're going to do that calculation first, but first we need to figure out what is an asset and what is a liability. Okay, so assets are good things. They're things that she owns, and liabilities are things that she has to pay back, basically. Those are her debts. So she owns a house worth $234,000, so that's an asset. She owns a car worth $12,000, so that's an asset. An RRSP, that's an investment, so that is an asset. She still owes $198,000, so that's a liability. And she has a student loan of $10,000 and a personal loan of $2,000. So those are all liabilities because those are all debts that she is paying off. Okay, so if we calculate the net worth, we would add all of these together. And if you add them together, it adds up to $248,500. Subtract the liabilities. So if you add all those up together, it is $210,000. And the answer to that, if you subtract those, is $38,500. So that is her net worth. Now, if we calculate the debt equity ratio, that is the liabilities minus the mortgage divided by the net worth, and then times 100. Okay, so her liabilities, we added them up here. That one is $210,000 minus the mortgage amount was $198,000 divided by the net worth, $38,500, and then times 100. Let's do that calculation here. 210,000 minus 198,000 divided by 38,500 times 100 is 31.17%. All right, example number 3 says George wants to purchase a home. He estimates that the heating will cost $200 per month. I'm just going to highlight that. The annual property tax is $3,400. His income, which it's not very clear, but $64,000 looks like an annual amount to me. Based on his GDSR, what is his maximum affordable monthly mortgage payment? All right, so we have annual amounts here. For me personally, I like changing the annual amounts to monthly, but you could also multiply the heating cost by 12 to get an annual amount for the heating cost. But usually, especially in essential math, we talk about the monthly amounts. So it's just more of a habit for me to calculate or to find the monthly amounts. Okay, so my property tax for the month is $3,400 divided by 12. And the income, the monthly income is $64,000 divided by 12. So we'll just do those calculations here quickly. 3,400 divided by 12 is 283.33. And the income amount, 64,000 divided by 12 is 53.33 and 33 cents. So now that we have these amounts, what we're trying to solve for is we're trying to solve for how much of a monthly mortgage payment he can afford, basically. And like we were saying before, the key number is 32%. That is the cutoff, the limit. So we're going to set up the GDSR formula and set it equal to 32%. And we're going to do some algebra, everybody's favorite, to solve for the monthly mortgage payment. Okay, so the GDSR, which is 32% or 0.32, is equal to the mortgage payment plus the property tax plus the heat divided by the monthly gross income. And it is times 100, but I kind of took care of that already. I divided by 100. That's where the 0.32 came from. So now let's replace these with the numbers in the question. So 0.32 is equal to my mortgage amount, which we'll just call X because we don't know what it is, plus the property tax is 283.33, plus the heating cost is 200, divided by the gross income, 53.33 and 33 cents. Now, the way that we solve for X might have been a little while since people have done this. I know we've been using a lot of technology to solve problems. We can simplify these two numbers here by just adding them together. So I guess I will do that in a step. So X plus 483.33. All of this divided by 53.33.33. We're going to multiply both sides by the denominator. So times 53.33.33 and times 53.33.33. So they cancel out on the right side. We can do this calculation here on the left. So 53.33.33 times 0.32 is 1706 and 67 cents. And that's equal to X plus 483.33. So now we need to subtract this to get X by itself. So I'm going to subtract it on both sides. And you get X is equal to, 12.23 and 34 cents. So what this is the maximum monthly mortgage payment that George can afford. All right, so a little bit of algebra to finish this off. Hopefully your algebra skills are, a little bit up to snuff. I know it's been a while, but that's it for this lesson. So just make sure that you understand the formulas and how they work.